Hey guys, I'm back with another iPhone 4 video. Today we're going to be looking at battery saving tips. Now I'm demoing this on the iPhone, but some of these tips will also be relevant on the iPod Touch and also on the iPad. Obviously the iPhone has the majority of the features, so that's why I'm demoing it on the iPhone. So there are various things you can do to save battery life on your iPhone. I'm going to demonstrate some of the main ones. There are some other smaller things, but these are sort of the main ones that will make the overall contribution. I'm using these features, I'm generally getting 2 or 3 days out of my battery on the iPhone. Just general use, just using the phone, texting, emailing, playing the odd game now and then. I usually get 2 or 3 days worth of usage out of it. I'm not a heavy user, I'm not on my iPhone all day every day, so that's the reason why. So first up, we'll go into the settings, and you'll notice up here that I've got Wi-Fi on and also Bluetooth. So one of the first things is to turn Wi-Fi off. That will save battery life. Some people just tend to leave all the wireless networking features turned on all the time, particularly if you're in and out of an office or the house or various places where you can get Wi-Fi hotspots. It just saves having to go into the settings and turn Wi-Fi on all the time. So firstly, I recommend turning Wi-Fi off and sort of only turning it on as and when you need to use it, because Wi-Fi does tend to drain quite a lot of the battery if you've got all the other features turned on. So once Wi-Fi is turned off, the other thing that I have on is Bluetooth. Now, I use a Bluetooth headset every now and again, but obviously that's the only time that I generally use the Bluetooth connection on the phone. So there's no point in me having that turned on. So if you're the sort of person that has Bluetooth turned on, again, I would recommend turning it off and sort of only using it as and when you need to, because again, that drains the battery life. So to turn Bluetooth off, if you go into General, and you should see Bluetooth there, and then the setting to turn it off. So that's two of the main wireless networking features turned off that sort of drain the majority of the battery life if they're turned on all day every day and you never actually turn them off. Another one is the use of 3G networking. Now at home and at work I don't get 3G signal because I live in a small village, and again I work on the outskirts of another small village, and the 3G data signal doesn't extend that far. I sort of only use the 3G data signal when I go into a town or a city, or when I'm out and about and I can actually get a signal. So there's no point in me having 3G turned on the phone, because all that's going to do is drain battery life. So we'll stay on the general settings. If you go into network, you should see the option there to enable and disable 3G, and it does actually say using 3G loads data faster but may decrease battery life. So I'm going to turn that feature off. What that will do is put me onto Edge networking, which you can see up at the top of the screen there. Now Edge is the slower connection, which is I suppose it's most like the old dial-up speeds, and 3G is sort of over-the-air broadband, if you like. But if you can't get it in certain areas, then there's no point having 3G on the phone, because as that will dramatically decrease battery life. So those are the three main ones: turn off Wi-Fi, turn off Bluetooth, and turn off 3G if you're not going to be using them. Those are sort of the three main things that you can do, which will dramatically enhance battery life. Some of the other things that you can do is to turn down the screen brightness. So if you go into brightness here, most people will have auto brightness on, and depending on the ambient light in your surroundings, the iPhone will automatically adjust to the brightness of the screen. Or you can turn that off and manually use the slider here to turn down the brightness of your screen. I generally have it at about halfway, which for me is perfect. It's just the right brightness. I never need to turn it sort of up or down at all. The auto brightness I find didn't quite work as well. For me personally, I found that sometimes it was too dark or too light, so I generally have it at about half brightness. But I mean, if you want to turn it down any less than that, then you can do. Obviously, the more you turn it down, the longer the battery will last. Another thing you can do is to quit running apps. Now, a lot of people don't realise that when you launch an app, it stays running in the background until you actually quit it, as an app on the Mac or the PC would say. So if you double tap the home button, you'll see the multitasking bar down here, and you can see all the running apps that I've got on my phone. Now at the moment I haven't got too many, but sometimes I can have like 20 or 30 apps running if I've not quit them for a couple of days. So what you can do, if you hold on one of the apps, they all start to wiggle and they'll come up with a delete icon. What you can do is just quit the apps that you're not going to be using and press the home button when you've finished, and it will just leave a few apps left on the left running in the background. Some apps will use communications in the background, and particularly if they're location based apps as well, obviously that will also lead to a decrease in battery life. So another tip there, quit any apps that you're not going to be using, or at least I tend to go in every couple of days and quit any apps, just quit all my apps and start afresh, because obviously you've got quite a few running in the background that will use up a lot of power. Now another thing you can do, let's go back into settings, is to do with checking of emails. Now I have push set up, so I only get emails pushed from the server as soon as they're received, but some email accounts don't support push, and you can actually set a check interval where the phone will connect up to the server and check for emails at given intervals. So you can check every 15 minutes, every half hour, hourly or manually. Now if it's set to manually, you have to physically go into the mail app and it will then connect up to the server and download the emails. If you set it to check every 15 minutes, and the phone will connect up to the server and check for emails every 15 minutes. Now obviously the more frequent the interval that you check for emails, again that will use up a lot of battery life. I think I set up an email account a while ago and set it up to check every 15 minutes, and after about half a day I did notice that my battery life had been reduced drastically. So I stopped that and set it up for to collect email manually. Now I think all my email accounts are on push. If you've got a lot of email accounts, or you've got an email account that particularly has a lot of emails coming in, then it's probably recommended that you turn push off for that email account, because if you've got a lot of emails coming in and the phone's having to have emails pushed to it on a regular basis, again that will use up battery life. So that's just a tip there with emails. If you only get a few emails, then it probably doesn't really affect you, but if you regularly check for emails, again that will lead to an increase in the battery usage. Now another couple of things which are relevant to some of the options here. The first one is push notifications, as I've just touched on. There are various apps here, I've got loads of apps here that all use push notifications, and what they are is when you load an app, but usually for the first time, it will ask you, this app wants to send you push notifications to notify you of things within the game, or it could be something like Facebook that notifies you when somebody sends you a message, or a Twitter app for example. And there are all sorts of apps that I've got that use push notifications. If you've got push notifications turned on for that app, and you've got loads of apps with it all turned on, then that again will lead to an increase in battery life, because the phone is constantly receiving data streams for those push notifications. If you tap on the app, then obviously you get all the options to turn various different alerts on and off, so you can reduce some of the alerts that you get and just receive some of them, or as you'll see, most of mine have got push notifications turned off, because there's a lot of apps that I don't particularly need push notifications for. So that's another thing to do with push notifications. As well as email, it does work with apps, and particularly if you've got apps running in the background and you've got push notifications on with those, again that will use up valuable battery life. Now the other thing is location services. There are a lot of apps that use your location based data. Again, these apps will usually ask you the first time you load them, this app wants to use your location, is that okay with you? If you accept yes, then it will permanently stay on. Now I've got quite a few apps here that use my location, and you can turn these on or off just from within the location services preferences panel here. So if there's an app in particular that you don't think needs to know your location, then you can just simply turn that off, and again that will save valuable battery life. If the app isn't running, then it probably isn't a problem, but if you've got the app running in the background and it's something that runs in the background but also needs to know your location whilst it's running, then again that will lead to a decrease in battery life. So turn off any apps that you think probably don't need to know your location, particularly if they're running in the background, and again that will stop your location being tracked whilst you're not sort of using the app. So that's it. Those are my tips for saving battery life. Mainly turning off things like wireless networking, adjusting the screen brightness, quitting any apps that are running in the background, things like push services, so things to do with email and the location services and push notifications for apps. You can either limit those or turn them off completely for some apps, and all these things sort of add up together to give you an increase in battery life. I know there's some people out there who say that they have to dock and sync their iPhone every day to get the battery charged because it doesn't last too long. Obviously, if you're using a lot of power hungry apps, there's not really a lot you can do there. If you're playing games all day, that will lead to a big decrease in battery life. But those are some of my tips for increasing the battery life on the iPhone, and I think I employ most of those tips, and they sort of all add up, and I sort of generally get 2 to 3 days use out of the iPhone using those tips. So if anybody's got any questions, then please post a comment, or the email address is up at the end of the video. I hope these tips have been useful for you and that they help you increase your battery life. Some feedback would be welcome, so if anybody's used these tips and found that it's dramatically increased your battery life, then I'd love to hear from you. So that's it for this video. Look out for further tip videos and app reviews coming soon, and I'll see you in the next video.